get you started right away here. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Design Review Subcommittee, Wednesday, June 15th meeting. We have one set of minutes to approve. We have a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second. Vote. Scott McCann.
Aye.
And Crandall is also an aye. We have two items today, three items. Three items today. And the first is conditional use permit 21290 root blossom sound attenuation, and Nancy Smith is going to present that.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As you mentioned, my item is CUP 21-290. This was a request to establish a transitional kindergarten to third grade school. This item actually was taken to Planning Commission for review on March 2nd, and it was approved. However, there were some concerns about some noise impacts that the proposed playground might have on the neighboring residential property. And so the Planning Commission requested that a condition be added to require the applicant to provide some kind of a sound attenuation method. And so per that request, staff added condition of approval 4.15, which would require a sound attenuation device be installed with DRSC's review prior to staff's approval. And so that's what the applicant's here to do today, is to request approval of their sound attenuation method.
Is this packet different than the one that we received?
It's
It's
just
more inclusive, but
it has
it's
all of the
same information.
attachments, yeah. So just to kind of give you a closer look at what the subject area currently looks like, it's currently just a patio, and it will be converted into a playground. And you can see its proximity to the residential development next door. And so the applicants are proposing to use plexiglass as their sound attenuation method. It'll be anchored onto the existing wrought iron fence, and so the applicant's saying that this is going to provide the noise abatement as well as help to maintain the existing views. The extent of the sound barrier is only going to be installed it's only going to be installed on a portion of the fence, and that would be directly on the area directly abutting the residential property. And the applicant's justification for this is that although it is a playground, it is going to be just a low impact playground, which means they're only going to offer areas for gardening, sandbox, a sensory area, so no big equipment is going to be installed, no swings, no slides, no jungle gyms, so the noise levels shouldn't be as intense. Here's just a closer look. Here's the extent of the sound barrier and how it would look once installed.
And that's at the kind of most close directly towards the
the closest proximity to the residential property.
Right.
And so with that, staff does support the applicant's proposal of their sound attenuation method and request that the DRSC approve or provide additional comments or recommendations.
Would the applicant like to say anything?
Sure.
Okay.
This is our the
appreciate
project
it.
architect,
Right.
Doug Eli.
Thank you, Nancy. So before we went to the Planning Commission, we did talk to the city about whether a sound attenuation device was required. We found that it was not required for a private school, but we took it upon ourselves to consult with a acoustical engineer. So he provided us with a study and a letter. I don't think this was in your original package. But
I don't think it's even in this new package.
It
No.
might
We
have.
haven't seen that.
It might have. Okay. So, but they did an analysis. Well, first of all, it really isn't a playground. It started out as a playground, but the facility is actually going to be using the playground up by the church, which is up the hill. This is an outdoor educational area, and they will only have one classroom in that area at a time. and their classroom sizes are 20 to 24 children. So what the study did is it assumed all 24 children in the area in the corner, which is immediately adjacent to where an existing residential building is. And they did a calculation and determined that if all the kids were, had loud voices at the same time, that at the location of the residences, that the actual decibel reading was 54, I think it is. And the residential standard, even though it's not required for a private school, is the maximum is at 55. So
That was without any attenuation.
without any attenuation.
Okay.
So the type of fence that is there right now is a wrought iron fence. So that provides no attenuation. Sound goes right through it. In our discussion with the Planning Commission, there were some neighbors that were residents in that building, and they expressed a concern, and so we said that we would take that into advisement and wanted to be good neighbors and all that. So what we researched and developed, first of all, there is a landscape hedgerow on the landscape drawings. And I just handed Nancy some information from the landscape architect in terms of what that is. But let me just pull that out. It's the Prunus Breitentite. It's a laurel cherry or a Carolina cherry. It grows to approximately 10 to 15 feet tall, and it gets quite bushy. So when it's initially planted, there's not going to be that much coverage, but over a period of probably about 5 years, it will fill in and be fairly lush. And here's
And that's along the fence?
that's along the outside of the fence.
Okay.
And then in addition to
Was that required or is that
No.
voluntary?
Nothing is required, but this is all voluntary, the way it was expressed to us. But we had to come up with some form. And landscaping, I know, while it's maturing, may not provide that much of a buffer. When it does mature, it's kind of out of sight. You can still probably hear the voices. So we proposed to add some additional material, which we initially call it plexiglass, but it's really a polycarbonate, and it's 3 inches thick. And it will be applied up against the fence. The only thing is that the fence that we are putting it up against will have to be a new one, a new wrought iron fence, because the existing one, I don't think has the footings deep enough and big enough to,
Handle the wind.
handle the wind load and all that. So it actually will be a new fence to look like the existing fence with this polycarbonate material over it. But it's just in the area immediately adjacent to where those residences are. And if you're familiar with the site, past those residences, it drops off. And so the playground is up high, and you have to actually look down the hill quite a bit before you see additional residents. So anyway, that is the material. If you have any questions about that, I'm here to answer them.
Is there any acoustical analysis on the ability of this fence to do what it's supposed to?
We did not have an engineer evaluate it, but without the material, we're at 40 or 54 decibels at the residences. So you have to know that when you put this material on it, it's going to be less. I just don't know what that is.
Okay, and ultimately the view is not going to be the issue because you're going to let the plants grow up on that fence.
Correct. And it'll provide some privacy between the residents and the playground.
Okay, it's a little tough to approve a sound barrier wall with no backup that it's a sound barrier wall, when that's what was promised by the commission to the public and the adjacent neighbors. So,
Can I respond to that?
in a second. An alternate solution is using like a Block, which is a fabric, less expensive than what you're proposing. You wouldn't have to rebuild the fence, and just use that. It wouldn't protect the view until immediately, but it would be it's got tests on it, and it's economical, and would certainly serve the purpose, and it would be considered a sound barrier. They use it on construction sites, tennis courts, whatnot, to block, and that would certainly meet the condition of approval without any question that there's tests and all for it. So I would offer that up as an alternate solution.
Okay, so there is testing information on the material that.
Well, that's what I asked.
Well, I thought you asked if we had I thought you were referring to we had an acoustician look at it and provide it.
No, is it rated?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we've never seen any of that, I don't believe.
It should have been
The
in the
rating on it.
package.
Or
It's a, yeah.
on the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we just got that. Okay, so it can be called but you might even consider that alternative.
Well, I'm sure if it's a less expensive alternative, my client would be
It's called
very amenable to that.
Block. ACOUSTIBLOK. And I've used it where tennis courts and all made
Really.
noise and whatnot, and it's certainly a viable. I think
It's a fabric.
aesthetically, yeah, it's an 1/8 inch thick fabric. I think what you're proposing looks aesthetically, for what we're looking at, is appropriate. I don't know if you have any comment on that.
I mean, I'm fine with the aesthetics of it. I guess my question is, can you point out where on the picture it's going? It looks like it's staying on the far side of the arbor. Is that?
Yeah, I think it's the
accurate?
far corner. I think you're right.
So it is the far
Scott.
corner. If Nancy could flip back to the site plan in a minute, it's this far corner out here.
Right.
Actually, this is being removed and the fence is being extended, and it's being put over this, over this corner as it turns the corner. It's a little deceptive here because it looks like this is right in front here, but it isn't. It's over here. And if you go to can you turn to the site plan?
There you go.
Yeah.
Because on that site plan, there's no pop out.
Yeah, right here. Yeah. So right now, the fence goes across and comes in a bit, but we're leveling it off right here and coming around like this. Those residences are over here in the corner, and so that's why we're installing this in this corner.
So where in the picture there's a pop out around the arbor? Where's that? I know that it's probably deleted from that, but where?
I believe that arbor is right in here, if I recall correctly. Between these two doors, there's an arbor here.
Okay.
So it comes like this and comes in like that. Mm-hmm. So just beyond where that arbor is, it extends all the way across and takes that angle by where there's an existing planter.
So when you chose that location, just because that's the closest to the existing residence.
Yeah, it's right across from where those residences are. The site drops off here, and the nearest residents are pretty far down the hill.
Well, the nearest residence is 46 feet away.
I know, that's in this location right here. I'm
Right.
saying the nearest residence.
Oh,
beyond
to
over
beyond
here.
that. Got
Yeah,
it. Got it. Right.
So we are giving a recommendation to staff. It doesn't go any further than,
Right. Sorry,
This
before we move
consideration.
on, there was a public comment that I don't know if we.
oh, I was not aware of that.
Sorry, wasn't aware that I wanted to comment, but if I may for a second, I didn't know this until I just listened to this meeting, but I'm across the street from it and above it, and so I hear noise from, that's my house, by the way. So that's right at this place, that's
Oh,
Bright
okay.
Horizons, I'm across the street from it. Noise travels up, these guys make a hell of a racket next door, Bright Horizons do, and I hear them when they were jackhammering up front here, they'd wake, kind of make a racket in the morning and sight travels straight, so it kind of goes this way. I don't know what you can't really mitigate noise going uphill in the direction
It's
we're
pretty
in.
tough. Yeah.
Obviously I didn't get noticed, even though I'm within the 300-foot radius. But I think the blessing is at least that during the day, the noise is made during the day, because it's going to be similar than this Bright Horizons, and it's a fairly pleasant noise, even though kids shrieking and that sort of thing is pretty loud.
Well, luckily, they moved their active, luckily the active area away from you a little bit further, and it's blocked by the building somewhat.
One thing I will say to support the applicant's comment, though, is I have glass as opposed to plexiglass screens all the way around the front of the house for freeway noise, and it makes a hell of a difference.
Oh, it does.
That if it's as thick as you're saying, 3 inches, it'll make a big
Yeah,
difference.
and
in
that's
mitigating the
going to be
noise.
pretty pricey.
This is the same material you see on the freeway. There's a development pretty close to where Pico hits as you travel north. It's up on the right-hand side. It's that glass product. I mean, you might think it's glass, but it's a polycarbonate sound barrier.
Did you say it's 3 inches thick?
Yes.
It's good. So I didn't mean to weigh in on that.
It's like a old racquetball court,
Sorry,
glass racquetball courts.
Nick Buchanan,
I'm surprised it's not thick.
NICK.
I just spoke.
Well, I was too.
AM.
But, okay, I'm comfortable with the aesthetics of it, which we're talking about. But I would certainly say that if you're going to let the plants grow up, and you might want to bring them around the corner more to help mix houses also, that's great. But I would say staff could consider the other option also.
Okay.
Because once those are up, whether it's clear or not, is not an issue anymore. And if they can prove to the staff that it accomplishes the sound attenuation, it might be a economical solution. Get any comments on that?
I'm fine with that. I can't help but wonder, I'm just curious why you guys are planting the hedgerow if it's not required. Like, why would you block your own view?
Well, the initial feedback was that the landscaping would end up being a good sound barrier in addition to the wrought iron fence. So, but because it's hard to justify landscaping, takes a while to,
Right.
so I can't really stand up here with a straight face
Yeah.
and say
And-
right at the opening, and first impressions are everything. So
And over the long run, anytime you have a hard surface like that, that patio's going to be noisy.
Right.
Because it reflects it right
Bounce
back
it back,
at you.
right.
And this other product absorbs.
the fabric, we'll look into that.
So,
Okay.
does staff need any other direction?
No, just to
On that?
confirm, so staff's going to basically work with the applicant to make sure that the sound barrier is sufficient and you guys are okay with what was being proposed and maybe
With
look
the
at
landscaping and the
the
wall
landscaping,
fence,
okay.
I think aesthetically, what we're looking at is design review
Mm-hmm.
and
it meets the condition of approval.
mhm.
Perfect.
Okay.
We're good? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion or anything on that? Or?
Do we need a motion on that for staff direction?
Let's make one, just in
Okay.
case.
Do you want to make it or do you want me to?
Why don't you make it since you have thoughts?
I move that we give staff the direction to consider the two alternatives suggested and even additional ones if they come to, and move it along and let staff make the final decision.
Second.
Vote,
Aye.
and Crandall is an aye, so pass unanimously.
And then should we know that Pam is absent? The one where is absent?
Yeah, that's shown in, one abstain for being absent, one not present.
Thank you
Very
very
good.
much for your time.
Okay, the next item is item 2A, excuse me, 2B. Discretionary sign permit, 21-289, 1010 Santiago Master Sign Program.
Good afternoon, how you doing? Actually,
So when we're open, why don't you introduce yourself to the school?
Yeah.
And if there are issues, I'm sure they'll do what they can.
I'm not worried about it. I'm at work. When the kids are
All
around.
right. All right,
And
thanks.
before we start, Vic, you want to introduce your team?
Perfect. Ryan is the designer and the signage installer for the project, and he submitted the sign application. My name is Nick Buchanan. I think Mr. Crandall knows me. I believe you're new on the planning, or relatively new on the planning commission, but so my name is Nick Buchanan. I'm the developer of the property and have a little bit of a history with David and some of the other staff. Mr. Crandall approved this project back in, 2015, I think, or?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so the signage is now, project's built out, sold out, we've leased all the spaces at this point. We'll touch on it a little bit. Do you want me to do a little bit of an intro or just introduce the people?
We'll do that once
Yeah.
we get after the presentation.
And Will in the side over there has just recently joined me. Will Spurgeon's a real estate analyst on my team, and so he's just sitting in to understand the process a
Very
little bit
good.
more. So,
And then I'll say one thing. This is the gentleman that sat through, or his project went through with a general plan and zoning amendment simultaneously,
Okay,
which is kind of what we've had coming in front of us.
right.
So he's a great resource for, he made it through the process, but it was a
I had
rocky
hair
road.
before I started, but that's an old joke.
Okay, David.
all right. Yeah, so good afternoon. So we have a discretionary sign permit today to review a master sign program for Nick Buchanan's site known as 1010 Santiago. That's a development's name. So here's a map showing the location of it, zoning, the new zoning through that amendment. It's mixed use 3.2 within the architectural overlay district and the affordable housing overlay district. So just real quick, the development consists of 7 residential units on the second floor, offices as well on the second floor, a gelato shop on the first level. We have a future restaurant as well on the first level, and then we have 2 levels of parking. So all that's relevant because signage will be for these uses and parking. So again, the request is for a discretionary sign permit. In that master sign program, we have a total of 9 signs. I believe the staff report said 8, so that was my mistake. So it is a total of 9 signs. There was a project ID sign that I missed in the staff report. But what that consists of, it's 3 tenant wall signs, 1 blaze sign, 3 project ID signs, 1 multi-tenant directory sign, and 1 parking directional sign. And the discretionary sign permit is also to allow the restaurant to have more than 25 square feet of sign area in the architectural overlay, since we know that in that overlay, the max is 25 square feet per business. I wanted to go over the master sign program just briefly so you can get an idea. Are you familiar with the master sign program?
Well, we've had some of them already.
Have we?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but in general, the whole idea of a master sign program at a development is just to expedite signage that comes in when you have multiple uses. So in this case, we'll be approving sign types, colors, sign area, sign location, so that when a tenant comes into the city, it's
all
a quick review.
pre-approved, basically.
It's all they have to do basically is just pay that fee, and they're done. But the master sign program, it includes a good amount of information. I noted in the staff report that they do have good content that gives the tenants some direction as far as sign types, and I want to touch on that real quick. So before we go into sign types, there's some information on the process for submittal, approval for the tenant, which requires landlord approval, obviously city approval. So that's, staff supports that information. There's information on the fabrication of the signs. We support that information there. There are a few recommendations, which I'll cover in a bit regarding these requirements. Enlarges.
Just a quick question. Once they get their master sign program, if the signage ordinance changes, does this then trump the new ones by being grandfathered in?
So since I've been here, I think I've seen that happen, and it does. Yeah,
Just want to make sure.
Following that. So what we're looking at is basically based on the sheet here is 5 sign types. So we have reverse pan, halo, illuminated channel letters, reverse pan, halo, illuminated channel letters, with, what was it? Oh, installing a backer board. So staff does have a recommendation in the report to remove that. And one of the reasons is that just like a raceway, it can detract from a building's architecture. That's been a position that's been taken before. So we do prohibit raceways in this master sign program, and for consistency, staff thought we can stay consistent and not allow a backer board. And I think Nick, you have a comment on that maybe after.
Yeah, to address that later.
The third sign type would be individual flat cutout painted metal letters. The fourth is mixed media dimensional signs, and the fifth would be dimensional lettering with goosenecks. And I have some printouts here to help us get an idea of what those are. So the first one is hey Ryan, can you help us just read? It kind of cuts off the description.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're able to read it still, but just in case.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
So the first one
On
is
top.
reverse channel letters that are halo lit. The second one is the example with the backer board. So again, this is what staff is recommending that we don't use, so that we can have that stucco mass. The third one is the individual flat cutout painted letter, which we already have one sign on the building for
Correct.
Lucky Dog Gelato, and that's the one that's shown on that example. And then the last one, fourth one would be the media dimensional signs. Can you explain a little bit more on that one, Ryan? The media dimensional signs.
I believe the media dimensional signs were more for the tenant identification, more for in the sign program, more in the back of the sign program we have.
Well, want me to go to a certain sheet?
Yeah, it will be page 16.
16. Got it.
So this is more for tenant identification, directional signage.
Okay.
So that's on the little placard is what you're saying?
That's actually painted on.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, to clarify, just if you don't mind this being an informal meeting, I'll interject a little here and there and kind of clarify some of these things. Our intent is never to do anything that's going to look like this. Our intent was, we added a little bit of color. I hired a local firm to do what I call branding of the building a little bit and help us a little bit with a wayfinding signage. And so that's going to be painted. The intent is to paint that onto the stucco, and that's what the colors would be, just to give it a little bit of variety. And so the goal wasn't to have pop outs or anything like that looks as vibrant as that does. So David had simply asked for some examples of what did you call it, media signage, and
Yeah.
so these happen to be the ones we had. But this is not the intent of what we're trying to do in the building.
Sweet. So those are the sign types, and then the development standards, we did review the MSP against that, and we do comply. But the only exception is increase in sign area for that one business, the restaurant.
That one business, my question, you've got the one on the front, on the main street, the round one on the side. The third one is,
Lucky Dog?
Oh,
Talking about
obviously.
Lucky Dog or
So,
Buona Foccata? Oh, when David said there are 3 signs, I think he's counting the logo on the patio as a sign, and he's counting the round part as a separate sign, right? I'm guessing, because you said there were 3 signs. I only counted 2.
yeah, that's all I counted.
We're talking about Project ID.
No, on
for
Buona
the
Foccata sign.
restaurant.
Yeah, they have 2 signs.
Yeah, so this is counted as 1.
Oh,
Well,
you know what?
you're counting that as 2, but you say on the south side, which is here,
Yeah.
there's 2 signs. There's a logo.
So, yeah, I counted the one on the multi-tenant directory sign. So the one that we just were.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Oh, down,
So
Right
it counted that one as the
Yeah.
third
Yeah.
one.
Oh, okay.
We probably don't have to, maybe, right? Which is
yeah, I don't know if that's necessary or not. I mean, that's one sign in itself.
Right.
So, what the text is, we can't control what
Right.
it says.
Right.
It's
Just
just
one-
a sign of that full size, and you could,
One comment on this specifically is I don't know if you'll remember, but in order to get Buona Foccata in there, we had enough building in the parking in the project, but it was allocated awkwardly. So some of it was allocated to residential use that wasn't being used and so on. So we had to go and do a shared use parking analysis to get to allow the unutilized parking to be counted towards the restaurant. And when we did that, and we went through the city council process, one of the directives in the conditions of approval was that we provide wayfinding signage specifically on the side of the project that said, this parking on the upper level was for those uses. So that's the main reason we have the signage here, is because the
so
city council
wayfair
told us to put
okay.
it here so that visitors know that this is for the commercial users, and then the other lower parking garage, which is exclusively for the residents, the city council told us we needed to say it, so that people don't try and park.
So
in
you
there.
were at one time adding this square footage to the,
Correct, which is pretty
One-
minimal. Yeah.
well, I don't even think it, that's a directional sign,
Right. Okay.
not a business sign. So I think there are only 2 for that's the way I'd interpret it anyway.
Okay. We'll make that note for the PC report. So yeah, moving along. So again, they do meet the sign standards in the code, with that exception to increase the sign area for that one business. One other thing was they included a mural, and I think we know the process for that, right? So for the mural, it's not a discretionary review; it is administrative. However, I am counting this one as a project ID sign, which they can propose, and the code says that for a project ID sign, it goes through the discretionary process, so which is what we're doing here. So the way I'm approaching this is one project ID sign, and everything else would be a mural. Do you want to?
So just the letter in 1010 Santiago is a project ID?
Correct, since it calls out the development.
Okay.
That gets a little complicated because the mural ordinance and all the approvals for murals was specifically, it's not a sign.
Correct.
And now this makes it a sign. Not the whole thing, but it's part of the mural. So staff's going to have to look into the history of that.
Yeah.
We don't comment on what the text is in signage, but on murals, they aren't supposed to be in front of a market showing a bunch of market bags. It's got to be an artistic mural of some sort, not advertising the business. Welcome Home, I don't think does.
But you don't think does advertise the business?
Not particularly. But,
So
the 110, it's giving a location, it's an address, more than a.
It's not a business, it's a condo project, so it's just a
Yeah,
residence.
I understand that, but it's a little risky calling it a mural if it has that on it. We're starting to get into a gray area here.
So a sign over.
I mean, if it was Welcome Home and then Santiago was underneath the mural image,
not within the.
I couldn't make that argument, or that
But it is their address,
it is their address.
which is.
So, I mean, personally, I don't mind it, but I just want to make sure we don't get,
Technically, it's not the address. The address is 1010 South El Camino Real.
That's absolutely
We
true.
started calling the project the Santiago Project, and we liked the 1010, so that became our marketing
Yeah,
name. It just grew into that. Do you? I'm kind of jumping into this meeting boots and all, but
No, that's
I didn't
fine.
mean to do that. But do you mind? Do you have? Is this on your computer or is this on the city's? one?
If you want to show,
Did you
sent
get
me, I
that
can do
email from Unsung that I sent you?
Yeah.
If you can just show that. And the reason Unsung is a local little branding company. There's a guy called
sure.
William Scott that's down here on the Old Camino. And he does, there's a couple of firms, and RSM's another firm that does really good wayfinding in the city. So he and I are friends, and so I asked him to come up with something that just, the building looks, even though it's Spanish, it just looks really plain and bare. And the building, we got our TCO on the building in beginning of last year, so it's been sitting empty without any graphics on it for 18 months. And so we wanted to make it look pretty. Half of the effort we're putting in here is the big windows, big massing on that restaurant space and on the El Camino Real side, and we're trying to make the building look a little pretty. We're using the signage as art really to make the building look a little prettier. So, the 1010 Santiago, I know David's interested in reducing the size of that. We have no problem with that. I don't mind making it smaller. That's really just from a wayfinding point of view. And without that art in the building, to be honest, the wall looks pretty bare. The Bonafocado stuff is what it is. I don't mind if you scale that one little piece, that one on the side down, which is what you'd
in
asked
the round
for.
one.
Yeah, the round one.
That's one of the.
And I think I actually was looking at that, and I'm not a mathematician, but I think it's 22 square feet, not 17, like the drawing shows. The 5.5 foot diameter circles. Like
It's a pi r squared.
pi r
right?
squared, yeah, I think it's 22.
I'm going to try and do it in my head. But, so that was the intent. I know, David, you had some comments about colors. I don't believe there are any colors here on this front. Everything's sort of black and white to try and keep it sort of old Spanish looking and keep it neutral. The stuff on the side, that we got rid of. I didn't put that on. I thought that was too fussy, so keep going. We changed this out. This was more really just to show you what his intent was. Remember, we changed that to the wayfinding signage based on the feedback from the city. And you made a comment about the color. I don't care if we keep it black and white or if we have the color in there. I'll just say I think the color just adds a little bit of variety.
What color did you have in it originally?
On that sign.
Uh-huh.
No, this is the signage program is different than that. That's black with the red around the edges. The one we have on the side is the one we looked at a little bit earlier that has the blues and yellows. Okay. And I can show you where we got that color from, but that's from our marketing color palette. That essentially comes off our brand board. When we go through a branding exercise, as I'm sure you've had an opportunity to do in the past, you come up with a name, you kind of come up with some colors, and the school goes into our marketing material. So that was our brand board for the project. And we felt that was in keeping with the sort of Spanish look and what we were trying to do. So those were where we got our inspiration for the colors. And then the little mural on the side was just a bare grey wall on either side, and it was just to make it look a little prettier, make it look a little fun.
The welcome home.
Yeah.
That one.
Our goal was I'm a big fan of improving the alleys in the city. We've got, I'm on the chamber, and I'm all about trying to clean up. That particular site.
Keep pushing for
was
it.
disgusting before we bought it. I mean, there was graffiti on that back wall. It was an abandoned gas station site. There were palm trees and rats and all sorts of trash all over it. And putting all the landscaping and everything there, I think, was a big nod to improving the alley. And that mural is really just to add a little bit more life and color. I'm quite happy to.
I think it's great.
I'm quite happy to pull the name off it. I don't care about that. It's just
So what's the actual
art and
street
welcome home.
address on this building?
1010 South El Camino Real.
And I think it's a really nice touch for the owners, residents there, to come home.
That's all it's intended to be. Make it look fun.
Because I think also the fire department would appreciate having an address sign on the back.
Yeah.
I think that's a requirement.
Yeah. On the alley side?
Yeah, so in case of emergency.
Because you might
they
be
can
able to
locate the
justify
front.
that as a fire department sign request.
Yeah, except that technically the address, if we just said
It'd have to
1010, I think 1010 would
1010,
satisfy that.
Yeah.
But the fire department also knows that everyone in the
Yeah.
city, this part of town essentially knows it as 1010 Santiago. So
Yeah.
having that there, I think just further identifies the building. So it is identified, but it's building. There's not a business that benefits from it. There's not a financial reason for it having that. It's equivalent of a monument sign for an apartment building, you know.
And it's nice not to have a monument sign. That's great, I think, what you've got going. I like the whole thing as a whole. And the project.
Thank you.
Like the colors. I think it's keeping the intent of what the city's looking for. I agree with staff that maybe that one round one on the south wall could be reduced a little bit. It's crowding the arches. Where is that? The rendering of that.
I think page 14.
Yeah, it's just crowding that balcony and arch a little bit. So if it can be shrunk down a little bit so there's a little more wall showing, I agree with David's comment on that. We've already on Santiago's sign there, the 10, now it's just 10 Santiago there. But, they aren't these bold colors where these things jump out. I think that's great. Is the, let's see, the mural, that doesn't have a gate in front of it, does it?
Gates behind it, yeah.
Yeah, gate's behind it. I'm struggling with the difference between a mural and a sign. That's the only one I'm having to struggle with at the moment. What do you have any?
I think it looks great, and to the extent that like it would help the fire department or whatever. I mean, it might not technically be their address, but that's what everybody knows it as, So, and it's not like boldly facing. I mean, it's kind of internal to the building almost, the way it's recessed in that alcove.
It is. It's
That's
like,
street
it would be
facing.
like a mural inside a courtyard almost.
Yeah, I think it's great, quite frankly.
What do we do on that, David? When we have a project like this and there's an interior court, say like at El Ranchito, back courtyard, we've got signage inside the patio. Are we limiting those signs? When we,
In regards to sign area,
yeah,
we do.
we are.
Yeah.
Welcome home. That's not a problem. It's not really street facing.
So the question is, can the 1010 Santiago be in front of that mural without counting everything as a sign?
Exactly. In other words, the total footage of signage would be way reduced if the welcome home part of the sign was separate from the 1010 Santiago. And that would, even if it was the same thing with a break in the two,
What if you put it like in black down in the lower right or something, the 1010?
well, the fact it's on the mural, when they did like the Triton down there on South El Camino, painted that big mural,
Yeah.
they requested to have signage on it, and it was not allowed because then it became signage.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're doing here. I'm just trying to figure out, it doesn't bother me, but it's an exception.
Are you able to make maybe parameters that it can only identify the building, none of the businesses within?
Oh, it already does that. It doesn't.
The problem with signage is we can't say what it says. You know, we're hands off on text. But we can say if it's a mural, you can't advertise, like, the Triton can't be sitting there holding a six-pack of Coke, Coca-Cola.
If you're having
That's
any,
kind of what we're
if you're
doing.
having any pause over it, I don't mind taking it out. I could care less.
Yeah,
one way or the other.
if you can negotiate that, I'm certainly not opposed to the sign, calling it a mural there, just that it can't advertise. That would be
Well, then I have
the
to
difference.
negotiate. The decision's done. Take the 10-10 out. That's easy.
But
yeah.
if yeah, I'd be fine with it that way. I mean, that suits all the other murals we've approved. We've got another mural we're looking at this today, and but I'm comfortable with the exception for the signage, with reducing the big round one, because that's just crowding the architecture just a little bit. And I'm not saying a whole lot.
You
maybe-
thinking 10%, 6 inches? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Before you make a final determination on the rest.
I think actually on the rendering you've got here, go to the round sign on the rendering. See how crowded it is there? But on your delineation, it seems smaller, and the delineation, I believe, looks pretty good. See how that's really crowded in the arch and the, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's too big. That's bigger than was on the graphic.
Yeah, I think the graphic has it about right. Let's see if I can find that.
Yeah. This one right here.
Did you?
No, it's, yeah.
Yeah, that looks far better than what the other one does. And that looks about right.
That's fine. I think
Because it
this is-
relates to the arch a little bit, it's in kind of in those proportions. There's some wall above and below. Yeah.
That's, I think, also a painted sign, and I think at one point we were contemplating making that as a halo-lit backlit sign. And I think by making it a backlit sign, just from a construction of the letters and that's why we went a little bit bigger, so there's more space to put things in. But I think if we did that, we'd probably just stick with a painted-on sign like
That's
that,
beautiful.
and then we just leave it like
Yeah, that's
that, and we can
Or the
you know,
SEOs.
yeah, I'm good with that.
And with your master sign program, it doesn't preclude you at some time of doing halo lit.
Yep, that works for me.
Your master sign program would allow that.
So that's just a placeholder name though, right?
No, this is the actual, one of the reasons it took us so long to get in here is we were waiting to get Bonificata through the shed, but that's the actual sign. The signage that you see on this, even though it's an MSP, is the actual signage we're proposing to put on the building.
Okay.
There won't be any. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I, before you make a final determination, I wanted to respond to raceways and backer boards. I don't like them myself that much either, but I've done a lot of these buildings and changing signage out after something's been up there for 10 years. This is the city of San Clemente in this design review area here has a requirement to do smooth hand trowel stucco, which is incredibly expensive and hard to do. We threw the kitchen sink at this one. Dave and I walked around it, made sure it was done right, and it's pretty. I want to drill as few holes in these things as possible, because once you move them and you patch them, they'll never look the same ever. And so to the extent that you can use raceways and backer boards and things like that in keeping with a nice clean look without it make it looking tatty, and you can halve the number of holes you have to drill, it significantly reduces the what's the nice
Yeah, it's
word?
very valid. That's
It looked terrible later on if I have to make a change, if I lose the tenant.
a very valid point.
Agreed.
The backer boards also hide a lot of that later on. So
But can we just specify that any raceways and backer boards are color matched to the color of the stucco
We
behind?
could do that, or we could, in his thing, you can always put backer boards, avoid backer boards where possible, which doesn't preclude them, just Maybe if your tenants don't leave, then when the new tenant comes, it may be necessary to do that. And
I mean, at the moment, we're not
it could be
intending to
done.
use any, and we're going to have a bunch, well, that's going to get painted on, so that's going to get sanded down. So we're not actually looking to use any now, but if we come with a tenant later on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
that's-
If we do some kind of verbiage like that, where it's in the architectural guidelines, it does that a bunch of times. Try to avoid where possible. And
Perfect, that works. Thank you.
So, another thing I wanted to bring up is the color, right? So there's no specific direction on the MSP, and I wanted to get the subcommittee's feedback on that.
they've
We
got
could
a
go
color
either,
palette
you know,
kind of going here.
there's examples, right, just based on the elevations, but it's not explicit. So if you wanted to keep it open, you can. The staff supports either one.
That's all right.
I liked those colors,
Yeah, I really like the colors you picked. I mean,
but I'm also okay them not being the potential colors for.
but we don't, we'd like to avoid neon colors and things that aren't the
No bright.
kind of
Light dark.
period
Light
correct. And I don't know how to do that easily.
We just say color revisions, come back to the DRC.
Maybe your architect and you guys can come up with a color palette that you'd like to put in here for signage. Oh, there you go. There it
So
is.
we
That's
showed,
what I was
I
looking
was going to say,
for.
we showed you one. Can we just stick with that?
Yeah, I was happy with that one.
Add that to that master sign program.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, I thought those were. Who picked those for you? Those are great colors.
Our marketing company, Bluefish,
You
yeah.
did a good job.
I think we ended up using a slightly darker. So I would, if you give us a bit of discretion, that blue in the middle is a few shades darker than that one.
Okay.
But maybe, I'm not even sure that it is that much. I'm just looking at them now. But it might be the difference in the color of the printing. But sometimes you want to have the latitude to stick generally within that palette.
Yeah, we just
So-
said that or
yeah,
colors.
Yeah.
No, I think the color choices are excellent. Really nice. So, David, what do you need from us? I think we're in general agreement. We didn't come up with an exact number for the excess signage.
I think we have enough direction. I think with that example we have up there.
And you'd be able to do that at the staff level?
Mhm.
Okay. I don't want to make him come back and...
No.
Can I ask you a question, Bart?
Yeah, please.
Back to the backer board issue.
Mhm.
Would we want to say backer board to be stucco? Like you could stucco a backer board. Same color.
It can resemble stucco or whatever, but the one thing that the backer board is going to do is be counted as part of the sign.
It does, okay.
So the area of the sign will include however big that backer board is. So it's going to want to kind of hug behind whatever lettering's on it, rather than being like a frame or a border or a big backdrop for it, because that is calculated in the square footage.
So normally what we'll do, and this project doesn't really allow for it, but like if we've got an overhang or a metal awning or something like that, we'll put a little raceway on the bottom and we'll stand the letters in front of them. And that raceway just allows for us to run an attachment if it's not backlit, but if it is backlit, we can run the electronics through there. So it
I mean, that's
minimizes the
certainly
amount of
another
presentation.
option.
So that's
Absolutely.
normally the way we'll do it, is just do it with a raceway, but he designs these things for us. And I don't like generally I prefer them to be individual letters on a stucco, but it's really just to minimize the amount of penetrations and bolts and stuff you have to put in the wall.
And particularly a raceway, if it can be capped where it's not.
Or it's behind the wall. I think it all just going to depend on access.
Mhm.
Usually I see a lot of backers or raceways usually because there's no access on the backside, but usually if there's a backer, it's because it's part of their branding.
Right.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we'll do it with the same metal, just to respond to the stucco comment. It's just, you can do it with like a black metal because the letters are black or something like that, then you'll just try and keep it small and discreet.
Or
I mean, a raceway, if it's capped off and the color of the stucco is not that, and if it's behind the letters,
Well, if it was a black raceway between the letters, that would be obvious. But if you were,
Yeah.
if it was similar to the stucco color, then you
so
wouldn't even
I
see
think
it.
either is an option, basically to be avoided whenever possible. But obviously, down the road, you're going to need some latitude.
Might be 20 years from now, who knows? But
Well, I won't be around to see that, so that's not a problem. Okay, so I would move that we approve this master sign program, number, let's find it here. Discretionary sign permit 21-289, 1010 Santiago Master Sign Program, with the comments that the circular sign on the south wall be reduced per the, it's not rendering, the photo simulation. That the mural be done where it is not considered a sign and a mural, leave it kind of open-ended. And that the colors that were presented to this body in the, where was that?
Colors
I don't
are
think it was
separate
in that. I
attachment.
think it was a separate email.
It's in a separate attachment, but I,
In the separate attachment presented to us at the meeting, are acceptable and approved. Anything I missed there?
Well,
Oh, I
the
raised
flexibility, a little bit of flexibility on the color, but I think it's
Yeah.
close to the percent.
And that we include that raceways and backerboard signs be avoided where possible.
Okay, got it.
Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, we'll do a vote. Commissioner McCann.
Aye.
And Commissioner Crandall is an aye, and Commissioner Camp is absent.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you, Nick. It's a beautiful
Likewise.
building.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like I say, as we're dealing with that zone change,
At the hospital site.
simultaneous application,
Right.
This was more complicated and controversial than I think any other zone
he
change.
survived it. He survived it very well.
How long did it take you to get through?
Well, he started in 2015.
2013.
13.
Well, I submitted an application in 14. Yeah, closed on the land. I think when we got the final city council approval, we got through planning commission quickly.
Yeah, we got through it.
And we started to, because the city approved their general plan, they changed the zoning here from neighborhood commercial to mixed use. And then I submitted the project and I wanted to process this general plan amendment with the project and they wouldn't let me. And they then insisted on updating the zoning in the area and then they went through a bunch of hoops. So I think it probably took us about 2.5 years, 3 years. You know? And then when we got done, the city had been sued by a homeless coalition, so the city didn't have the authority to issue building permits. So we had to go and repeal that. That added another 8 months or so.
Oh, jeez.
So
It was a lot here, but I'm glad you got it through. It was a nice
Yeah.
project. It was a nice project.
appreciate it, and thank you for all your help in the process,
Thanks,
Mr.
David.
Crandall.
Absolutely. And item 2C. Samantha is going to be presenting this mural on public property North Beach Concession Building.
Yes, I've got some better looking renderings for you guys as well. Thank you. Just us?
Just us.
Yeah, just us. Okay. Wow, look at that.
thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you guys for having me. So here I am again with some public art for the North Beach restroom. So this is a kind of a modernization of the character counts mural that used to be at
Yep.
North Beach. Are
Yep.
you guys familiar with that old mural that was there?
Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar with
Let
it.
me-
I don't,
Let me bring it up just
I'm
because
sure I've seen it,
I
but
think it's
Okay.
super helpful to have.
Everyone who walks the beach walk coming up into North Beach
Just click
sees this.
start
and,
without your data.
Oh,
Yeah, click that and it'll,
good heavens.
I don't know what's going on there.
Fine,
There it goes.
great. Just give me the internet.
I know, that's not every time.
Let me see. The M is sticky.
But it's always been kind of a community message. There's a playground down there, so the
Yes.
kids see it and all.
Yeah.
So it's very youth oriented.
It's not gonna give me what I just brought up. So this is, I'll find it, I promise you that. I literally just have it on my own computer. And character counts, murals. There it is. I knew it was somewhere. It's mob probably. So this is what it looked like. This is from 2000 is when it was originally painted. There's all kinds of different little postings of it. So the original one was created right at the kind of the start of when there was a nationwide character counts program roll out, and it was in conjunction with the sheriff's department and all kinds of things. And so this was done with one of our the San Clemente Sunrise Rotary kind of initiated this project, and they utilized the San Clemente High School Interact Club to do this mural. And you can see actually this photo is the group of kids who painted it. This was Leslie Mowers, who was the crime prevention specialist for the city. So this was a super special community project that went out in 2000. In 2017, the entire wall just was completely crumbling and deteriorating, and unfortunately Public Works had to go in and completely remove the mural in order to rehabilitate the actual building. Mm-hmm. So in doing that, the mural could not be salvaged, unfortunately, and after that happened, we learned very quickly the importance of this mural to the community, and that it had such significance to so many people.
Oh, yes.
So ever since then, I have been doing my best to try to get the Sunrise Rotary back on board to do another rendering and kind of do kind of a fun, very San Clemente thing of bringing something back.
Right.
So the San Clemente Sunrise Rotary is finally on board. I will say they started this process in 2019, and then COVID hit, and there was a student transition, and so this whole process and what you guys see before you has been student driven, and so and part of it is a learning experience for these San Clemente High School students. This is a student artist. She's an art student at the high school, and she's working with the Interact Club, which is kind of the high school division of the Rotary Club. The Rotary Club is going to fund the whole thing. They're going to go out and get sponsorships and community donations to make it happen. And they are working with Josh Paskowitz, who's a professional muralist, and he's kind of mentoring the student artist on really how putting a mural on the wall works, what it looks like. So it's really become kind of a cool learning opportunity for a lot of different young leaders in the high school. So what you see in your packet is a very rough rendering, and then I just handed you guys another kind of more cleaned up concept drawing. The idea being, we want the surfboards. We know that's important. That was iconic to the mural. Kids are important in this, and the beach theme. So they kind of took a spin on the famous Beatles cover where they're walking across the street. Barefoot, yeah.
Oh,
so you can see there's like a couple little surfers walking across what's really supposed to be kind of a boardwalk or pier concept. And then it's on the sand, and you've got the surfboard stuck in. You've got a surfer in the back. And it's supposed to be kind of cartoony. It's going to be a kind of diverse crowd of kids that are just a bunch of surfers heading to the beach with their character counts surfboards. It will be full color. You can kind of see again in that handout I gave you guys the color scheme that they're looking for. It's going to definitely mirror what was previously there color-wise, very bright and vibrant, because again, that's really was attractive to what knows the community. So with that, they are still finalizing all of this, but they really want to get this up before the 4th of July, which is why it's coming to you guys kind of still in concept, but
The concept is just great.
I think it's on point. I worked extensively with them, and the first concept was not good. So I wouldn't bring you guys something that I didn't have faith in and believe that this is really the right direction for the mural. So if you guys have feedback, I'm happy to provide it to them, and they're absolutely willing to take it. They will be putting the San Clemente High School, the Triton logo is going to go on there as kind of a painted by Triton students, and then the Rotary Club will put their logo, and it was very similar. The old mural had it, but it's not going to be by any means giant. It'll be kind of in the lower right corner, and then the restroom, you can see in that one, there's a restroom sign that will remain in place as well. They're actually going to get tiles made that'll kind of have a little bit more of a Spanish tile look to them as opposed to just the wood. So happy to take questions or thoughts.
One thought I would have is that it would be nice if we could San Clemente it up a little bit more.
Okay.
So maybe like if you had like the pier going off on the left side.
Okay.
Like kind of going out into the ocean or something.
Okay, sure.
Just so it would be identified more as this is San Clemente.
Okay.
It's, we're dealing with pretty, what would you call them? Novice artists
Yeah.
at, content, great message. You might let, and what is here is fine, but you might have the artist consider a little more diverse age group,
Okay.
where it's
Yeah, that's a good idea.
elementary, middle school,
Yeah.
high school,
Yeah.
just
That's
vary
a
the
good
heights a
idea.
little bit so it's a little more.
What do you think about the Beatles thing with the crosswalk?
No, I'm a Beatles fan, so it doesn't bother me at all.
It seems a little out of place. I think most people won't get it.
Probably not, which is why I think they were
But-
gonna do the boardwalk's supposed to kind of look like the pier planks a little
And-
bit to have that.
And you could put one
pier
person in
feel.
flip-flops, it
You
doesn't.
totally could. At the end of the day, how many times do you walk down to the pier bowl and see 4 surfers walking down to the beach with their
Always.
surfboards?
Oh,
Yeah,
but-
e-bikes.
Yeah, there you go. You're absolutely right.
That's great feedback. I think that's tremendous.
So is this wave one, was that another concept?
So that was the student, that was her take originally, and then they kind of brought Josh in and he really finessed this of, this is not really what you want to see on a mural, because you want a little bit more of a postcard, if you will, I guess, and this didn't really hit the postcard mark. So you'll see that surfers kind of in the background now
Got it.
of that image, and again, the muralist is really working to mentor these young artists. The concept will be more of a paint by numbers in terms of application. That
Okay.
he's going to go in and sketch it out, get it on the wall, and put the numbers in.
Okay.
2s are purple, 3s are reds, or whatever it is. So it will come to life as close to it as possible. I'll tell you, this mural is not what was originally approved. It's very different from the council approval because students applied it. They put it together. Actually, they were the ones that put it on the wall, and it's a very interesting spin on
And we've
that.
got some wonderful muralists in town
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
if they were present while they were painting it, they could give them a great art lesson.
Yeah, so I think that was the concept in bringing Josh Paskowitz on. He's a big local muralist. He's got a lot of, obviously, colleagues in the field, too, that want to throw their
But
efforts.
I really like the cartoon. It shows that it wasn't high-end artists doing it.
No.
And that's what that playground and that beach is all about. So I'm
Yeah.
in complete support of it. I would love to see it up before, or they could be painting it on the 4th of July.
Yeah, their
Whatever.
target date is actually
that
next
would be
week.
a
I've
fun event for people to watch.
Very fun. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of publicity. We'll probably do an unveiling of it because it is such the beloved mural. So,
Well, thank you for being involved in this. This is-
yeah, thanks you guys
It was
for
nice.
taking the time. I think your feedback's great.
Well, and thanks for steering them.
Now,
Yeah.
who's the sponsor of this?
The San Clemente Sunrise Rotary. So they're the morning group. Jim Holloway's actually,
Good for him.
yeah, he's been involved with
It would be nice to see them even identified.
I think they're planning to,
somehow-
somewhere.
Um,
Yeah.
Because our volunteers and all and things like that deserve some recognition.
Yeah, absolutely. So, cool.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you guys.
And if you give the feedback to Jim, say hi for me.
I see him at the pool a lot.
Good.
And you guys will know that the murals on the pier are up now. I don't know if you guys have had a
I have.
chance to see them. Yeah, they
We went and walked it.
came to life really nicely, I think. So, all right. Thank you so much for your
What
time.
was your name?
Samantha.
I'm
Irene.
Scott.
Nice to meet you,
This
Scott.
is signed.
Are you in?
Thank you.
BPR, Beaches, Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
Yeah. Community Center.
Let's see here, under agenda,
Thanks, Sarah.
there's our adjournment. You got it out there, good.
Scott's ready.
I move we adjourn to the next regular meeting, June 29th at 3 p.m. here.
Second, and vote. Commissioner McCann?
Aye.
And Commissioner Crandall is an aye, and Commissioner Camp is absent.